Hey, Russ, I got to tell you, my 16-year-old is currently in the process of selling a 20-acre parcel of land to a 10-year-old.
That is so cool. Tell me
I
more.
mean, we're talking about land flipping on today's podcast with the Land Geek, Mark Podolsky, right? You love him. We love him. We've had him on here before, but it was time to bring it back to the basics and make sure everybody who's listening to the show now understands this amazing process in which, again, my 16-year-old has bought 60 acres in Texas. And she has the ability now. She's reached out to Sharon at our most recent offsite in Sea Island, found out his son is learning to do land flipping. He's in the investor toolkit right now as we speak. And she's like, I wonder if I could help them get started by selling him one of my lots. And so he can get started quickly. I mean,
That's so
is
cool.
that amazing? Like, think about this. 2 years ago, you and I didn't even know how to spell land flipping, let alone my daughter is now in the game and selling to a 10-year-old. This is unbelievable.
It's people helping people, man. It's the ABCs today of land flipping, where we bring back the Land Geek, Mark Podolsky. We have him help you see, one, how he started, where he came from. You'll probably resonate with the story. Many of us have been in that corporate environment where we feel very tied to the job, not feeling like there was a way out. He didn't have lots of money, but he learned a process. He took a mentor and followed what that person was doing, and ultimately within 18 months was able to leave his corporate gig and start his own journey to financial freedom. And now here we sit 20 something years later, where he's helped many of you have started the land flipping business. You've heard us talk about how we implement the land flipping business in our passive income report every single month. So for you, if you haven't heard Mark before, this is going to be a treat. He's a friend. Yeah, there's a little bromance that happens there at the end. Give us a break, right? Like if somebody was helping you build $20,000 a month of passive income, you probably showed them a little extra love and compassion as we did with Mark. But hopefully you're going to get something out of this. And whether it's for you or one of someone you know that you think, man, they would be excellent for this idea, please forward this on to them. If you haven't already, take time, like, rate, and review the show. That's how other people find it. Joey, let's still know more out of this interview. Let's jump right in right now with Mark Podolsky.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Welcome. You're in for a treat today. If you've not met him yet, the Land Geek, Mr. Mark Podolsky, with us in the house. Mark, so glad to have you.
Joey, Russ, it's always a pleasure. This is the highlight of my week.
Well, Mark, you are our favorite person to talk to, because not only are you always so gracious, very humble in your achievements, but you always compliment me. And you know that goes a long way with me, and I appreciate it. Like wearing a pink shirt today, just so that I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Grateful to have you in the room. All right, now, Tribe, if you have not been listening to Joey and I's passive income report and heard us talk about land flipping, we thought that we would rewind the tape a little bit, take you back to why we got interested in this one concept. And it started about 3 years ago when we interviewed you, Mark, on the show. And we were trying our best to understand this guy who was walking on a treadmill, telling us about this very simple, unique idea, a concept that the big world had not taken part in, but you had mastered. So I want to take you back in time, if you will. Both you and Joey have lost like 100 pounds between the two of you, but over that time frame. and I think I gained it. But hopefully it was some of it that I gained was because of the cash flow that you've helped put in our pocket. All right. So let's take you back to the kind of origin story. I know that you learned about land flipping a long time ago. You were working in the corporate environment. Would you mind sharing that story again with our audience?
Yeah, not at all. And for those of you that have heard this story before, feel free to put it on 2x speed. That being said, it's always good to have a reminder of the basics. So if we rewind the tape to 2000, I was a miserable, micromanaged 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And as you guys know, it got so bad for me, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues, anticipating Monday coming around. I get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy that's telling me that as a side hustle, he's flipping raw land, pennies on the dollar, and he's making a 300% return on his money. And I'm looking at companies all day long. And a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average companies, 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long less than 10%. So of course, I don't believe it. I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico with him to a tax deed auction. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy up 10 half-acre parcels at an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. 300%, it worked. So I took all that money, went to another auction in Arizona, which is where I live. And again, this is 2000, there's no one in the room. And I'm buying up lots and acreage for nothing. And I sell all that property, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my pregnant wife. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took me 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. I've been doing it full-time ever since. Over 6,000 transactions now. And I still absolutely love the model. I love the concept. Although today I'm more on the business than in the business. But I'm not afraid to buy dirt and get dirty.
Well, talk to us through that process, right? For those of us who had not started down the path of land investing, what were some of those key components, things that made it so successful for you? How is it that there are 300% returns? How is that not too good to be true?
So it's an inefficient market. So that's why it's not too good to be true. And when I say inefficient, that means there's not that many transactions going on. It's not like you can go on, say, an MLS or Zillow and you can see, oh, there's the recent comps. The comparable sales in the raw land market, especially where we focus, are all over the place. So it's truly what a buyer and a seller agree to. And it's one of the last inefficient markets on the planet that I know of. So that's why. So if I walk you guys through the model, you'll kind of see how it all works. And since you guys are from Birmingham, I'll do it really slowly.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to pretend you guys own 5 acres of raw land in Arizona where I live, but you owe $200 in back taxes. So you're advertising 2 important things. I mean, number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Alabama, the property's in Arizona. And number 2, you're distressed financially in some weird way. Because when we don't pay for things like our property taxes, we don't value them in the same way. And as a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, hey, if you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose that parcel to a tax deed or tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your property for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale, let's say it's $10,000, and divide by 4. And that's what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500. So you guys accept the offer. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote unquote top dollar offer. But now that you've accepted it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm Wealth Without Wall Street still owns that property. I have to confirm back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure that there's been no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. I want to know what's compelling about the property. So I have this whole big property checklist. And I outsource that to my team in the Philippines. We pay about $11. They're connected to an American title company. And so everything checks out. That's fine. Now, if I was investing more than $5,000, I wouldn't take any title risk, and I would just close traditionally through an American title company. But it's only $2,500, so we'll have the team do it. But while they're doing due diligence, they're also creating my marketing. So they're getting me the plat maps, the aerial maps, the satellite maps, the GIS maps. I'm getting pictures of the property. And if it's in an area where I've never been, I might invest $50 in a local Craigslist gig to have somebody go out there and shoot pictures, shoot video, and also fill out my property checklist. Like, are the neighbors dumping? What's the road like? How far from the nearest services? How far from the nearest Walmart, etc. So I would do that as well. But we'll assume everything checks out. Now I'm going to sell your property, which I bought for $2,500, 30 days or less, and I'm going to make it cash flow like a rental home. So you guys already know the question. I have a built-in best buyer. Who is it?
All those folks that live nearby.
The neighbors.
All the neighbors. The neighbors. So we're going to set up those neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity to protect your privacy, protect your views, know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if the neighbor passes, I'll go to my buyers list. The buyers list passes, I'll go to a little website that even Russ has probably heard of called Craigslist. It's the 15th most trafficked website in the United States. And then I'll go to one that, Joey doesn't know, but I know his daughters know. It's called Meta or Facebook, the buy-sell groups in the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands, landmoto.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the magic is in the pricing. So all I'm going to do is make it irresistible. I'm going to ask from another buyer a $2,500 down payment to own your 5-acre parcel, right? So I want to get my money out on the down payment. Now, I could go 6 to 10 months out, but ideally I'd like to get my money out right away. And then I'll just make it a car payment. Let's say $297 a month at 9% interest over the next 84 months. So it's this one-time sale, get my capital out on the down, or I could go 6 to 10 months out. And now I'm getting a passive income of $297 a month and 9% interest in the next 84 months, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents, and because I'm not dealing with the tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation. So it's a simple game. Can we create enough land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses? And now you're working because you want to, not because you have to.
All right, so let's talk through the process. As someone who's been hearing Joey blab his mouth over and over again about how we have this land business that's kicking off almost $20-something thousand a month, they say, but how hard is it? What you just said seemed easy, but nothing's easy, right? How hard
nothing
is
worth
it?
doing is easy. Crypto is easy, but nothing worth doing is easy.
How hard is it? So walk us through the process of the send out. Walk us through the process of the selling part. I want to kind of break that down a little bit.
So if we're going to break it down, there's 3,007 U.S. counties. So your first challenge is, well, where do you start? And let's face it, right? Nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Iowa today, unless you live in Iowa. So we want to focus on counties in fast-growing states, Southwest, Northwest, California, parts of California, Florida. That's not to say that there aren't going to be great deals in beautiful parts of the Midwest, but your biggest buyer pool is going to be in those states. So that's where we're going to start. And we can go to a site like landmodo.com and see, well, where are other land investors buying, and go there. So that's really where you start. Once you get your county dialed in and you know definitively that there's a market, then you want to get the public information of the real property owners of that county. And you can do that through a company like datatree.com, listsource.com. If you have a good government employee, you can just call them directly and get
Wait a second. Did you say a good government employee?
Yeah.
Irony. He was being facetious.
Yeah. I mean, look, sometimes you get a unicorn out there and it's like, whoa, where did that, but sometimes you do. And maybe your local title company will have that information. So once you get that list, it's going to be a big list. It's going to be all the real property owners. Now you have to scrub out that list. So the quick and easy way to do that is by use code. Let's say it's VL for vacant land. So now we're getting rid of all the residential properties, commercial properties, industrial properties, and we're just left with vacant land. And then we're going to do one more, let's say, manipulation of that spreadsheet, and we'll sort by assessor's parcel number, APN number, and that'll get us by subdivision and acreage. Because when I start doing my calculations of sending out offers, if I send Joey, who has 40 acres, the same offer as Russ that has 5 acres, Joey's going to send me back glitter in the mail. So I don't want to do that. So once that is completed, and I've got my list, it's been scrubbed twice. Now I'm going to go to the comparable sales, and I'm going to divide by 4, and I'm going to price my list. Then I'm going to upload that list into my software called lgpass.com that will automate sending out the first-class letters to the real property owners. And then from there, the owners will send back the offers. And I want to have an intake manager because, again, we're going to have a team in place. The last thing we want to do is build ourselves another job. So with an inexpensive virtual assistant, they will start doing our intake because sometimes people are confused about the offer. Sometimes they just want to call and yell at you about the offer. So you want to qualify them. Are they really a seller? And that's where your intake manager comes in. So once they're qualified, the intake manager will walk the seller through the process of closing. Something like, hey, we got your offer back. It's going to take us about 7 days of due diligence to make sure that everything's in order. Once that's complete, we're going to go ahead and send you a check for your property. And then we're also going to send you the deed. You're going to sign it, notarize it, send it back to us. Once it's recorded, we'll take care of it. And then there's some more detail from there. It's a larger transaction. They're not going to want to close directly. They're going to want to go through a title company, but that's for another day. I don't want to get lost in the details.
This podcast is amazing, almost too amazing, Russ. There's too many ideas, and I don't know where to get started creating passive income.
Well, here's the thing, Joey. I think one of the things you need to consider in that statement is what is it costing you to not know? What is it costing you not to take action? I love the statement that says you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great.
If you're struggling on where to start, you have to know what type of investor you are. Know your investor DNA. And if you want to learn more about this, you can join us in our Passport Challenge at wealth.wallstreet.com/passport. Get started today.
Let me give you a breath. That was a lot. And but also as I'm riding down the road, I'm running on the treadmill. I'm questioning this one thought, like how many of these can I really do? Like you just said, $297 a month, and I'm thinking that's good, but still $297 a month. That's not going to move the needle for me. So, Mark, ballpark for me, since you've been doing this since you said 2000, so that's a little over 20 years. How many transactions have you done?
Over 6,000.
Whoa, wait a second, 6,000?
6,000.
Okay, Joe, I could get behind $297 a month times 6,000.
I'll put up with it.
Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure I'm tracking, because that's the question that's in my head, right? Like you said, everything that's worth doing is hard, right? And I want to make sure we're calculating as to why would we go through this process, and it's not a fit for everybody. So before we get to that question, because I do want to break that down, let's talk about the sale. Like, so let's say we've bought the property, right? We convince that 3 to 5% of the people who are wanting to sell to take that offer. The next question I have in my mind is, am I going to get stuck with this property, right? So let's talk about how easy is it for us to sell it, and how many properties ballpark have you been stuck with over the 22 years that you've sold or, bought or done 6,000 transactions?
Yeah. So I it's crazy to say I've never been stuck with a piece of raw land, and I've never lost money on a piece of raw land. And the reason being is I'm buying it 25, 30 cents on the dollar. Now, you could take that with any asset. I don't care what it is. It could be a car, it could be a house, it could be a rare coin, it could be a book. There's someone else on the other end of that deal at 50, 60 cents on the dollar. Now, the question is, well, like, I bought property that I thought looked like Chernobyl, and it's still sold. So there is a pig for every barn. Just because you don't like the land personally doesn't mean there's not someone else out there that wouldn't love that property. And I had to learn that the hard way. So learn from my mistake, which cost me about $50,000. And don't be a land snob. If you can buy the land 25 cents the dollar, you've done your due diligence, there's someone else on the other end of that deal.
Well, and the other thing that I wanted to point out was, like, as I'm hearing you explain this process, our tribe is looking for passive income. At the beginning of this, it sounds like it's much more, hey, I've got to build a business. I've got to almost do a side hustle to create this business and then be able to hire myself out of the equation. Like, you're talking about the whole team and all that. How difficult is it to find people for each one of those steps?
Right. So
The team.
there's a company out there that's already went through our coaching program. Pete Schmidt and Anthony Napadano went through Land Geek coaching, and they're entrepreneurs. So they're like, hey, we like this whole virtual assistant model, and we have this other business, and we have these virtual assistants that already work for us in Jamaica. Why don't we train these people on how to do the land business? And for the last few years, that's what they did. And so you can go to landvaforyou.com and just hire already pre-trained virtual assistants. There's a company out of the Philippines called landmasters.us. Same thing. Now, you can do that, or you can start recording yourself doing the work and then training somebody on, say, upwork.com or Fiverr and teaching your own team how to do it. So, yeah, I mean, look, let's just be honest about the word passive income. Nothing is truly passive. If you guys give me $1 billion, well, now I have to go actively manage that $1 billion. And then after that, earn the passive interest on those investments. But I still have to do something. So this is a business. We want to do a volume business. We want to set up software. So essentially what are these 3 levers, right? Other people's time with inexpensive virtual assistants, software and automation, and then other people's money to really scale the business. And a shameless book plug, Dirt Rich 2 is coming out soon, guys, on how to scale your land business using these 3 levers.
Yeah, I love that. Dirt Rich is definitely one of my favorite Audible books. I love the fact that you do it and you do it so well. Let's keep walking people through this process, right? Let's talk about what are those challenges early on. So, a lot of the people, it may be time. I think we just covered the time part, but another potential obstacle could be money. What is the person who gets into this business and you're going to say, hey, if you're going to do this business, this is how much capital that you should be willing to come to the table with. Otherwise, it's just not going to work for you. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, so we've done a roundtable podcast on this, and I know Joey's going to laugh when I say the number, but it's really true. To get into the business, you need about $500, and that's going to get you your mailings going. Because once you get an offer back, that's really the difficult piece of the business. So once you get that offer, you can then send out neighbor letters and do that, or you can wholesale out or assign an option to another land buyer. So you don't need a lot of money to generate income in this business to start. Now, if you want to start making real money in the business, then you can just quick math. For every $100,000 of raw land that you acquire, that will throw off approximately $10,000 a month of passive income.
That's amazing just to think about like the scale that you can do. Because what would you compare that to, Russ? Like to take $100,000 of anything to turn it into $10,000 a month of passive income.
Well, if you thought about buying 5 rental properties, right? If you bought 5 rental properties at $100,000 a piece, which, I mean, show me where you can find $100,000 rental property. Like that's the old slum house route now, right? But if you could find $100,000 property, put 20% down, that's 5 properties kicking off maybe $200 a month times 5, right? So you got $1,000 a month, and you just said, Mark, on $100,000, it's going to kick off $10,000. That's a 10x opportunity there.
No doubt.
Right. Yeah, I like this business, guys.
Just a little bit.
All right. So this is, I mean, it's hard for us, right? Like I want to be fair to the audience who's just picked up this podcast. Their friend said, hey, you need to be listening to Wealth Without Wall Street. They're teaching on passive income streams, tax strategies, infinite banking, helping you figure out how to get not only to 100% where your passive income equals your monthly expenses, but even through this passive income mastermind, how to go to 200%. And I don't want to pretend that everybody's been listening from the very beginning. Clearly, Joey and I are sold. And we not only have we interviewed maybe 10 to 15% of the 10 to 15 people that you have personally and your team has personally trained who are implementing this. We've gone to, 8 or 9 of your quarterly boot camps and seen hundreds of other people. So this isn't like there's always things in life where you see the one person who got to the top, right? One person wins the mega millions, in the lottery, right? But we're always like, that can't be me. But when I go to these events and I see these people, the common thread that I see is that they just were motivated. They had made the decision that I want this so bad that I'm not going to give up. And that's the common thread. It's not like, oh yeah, I could see why that person made it. They're just amazing, right? Not that they're not amazing, but the reality is that some of them would be the person you wouldn't have thought who could have been able to have been successful at this, right? And I love, Mark, that you share your stories within this, but more importantly, sharing the stories of those others who have seen the success. So let's transition just a little bit now. I do want to kind of, as we start to wind this down, talk about what that opportunity looks like for the person who maybe is saying, okay, how do I go faster, right? So what would be the steps that someone would go through? How do they engage with you in this process? And how do they start going faster if they're like, I've got to make this happen? This isn't something I want to do over a period of time. I want to try to push that timetable, condense time as much as possible. What would be some of the ideas you would give that person?
So the Disney Fast Pass in this business is just better training, because you can learn this business like I did, and it's going to take you years to figure it out. But if you can smart cut it with someone who's already done it and just follow the recipe, that would be a great first step to really launch your land business. That's not to say that you couldn't do it yourself. You could do it yourself. And to your point, like, I'm not special. Now, my mom would disagree, but she's the only person on the planet that would literally disagree with that statement. So if I can do it, then anyone can do it. But to your point, the ingredient is that burning desire. Give me somebody with commitment over cash any day of the week. I can tell you right now, their success is inevitable.
All right, so let's shameless plug. Give it to us. Tell us what we should do next. I want to start down this road. What is the path? What should I do next?
I think the best next place to go, because if you're going to learn anything, I think the best way to learn is by doing. So I've got a free course that will teach you how to double your money 30 days or less. thelandgeek.com/quick deals. thelandgeek.com/quick deals. Once you start working in the business and seeing, does this model resonate with you, then you can go deeper into the training, and we have more options for you to do that.
That was thelandgeek.com/quick deals.
You got it.
Okay. And then I do want to do a little bit of a shameless plug for the Club 200. As you know, we are all members and partners in this business, the Passive Income Mastermind. And because of that, our members get access to not only the land business opportunities that you've already mentioned, but a way to even go on the fastest pass. When we talked about the fast pass, this is the fastest pass. You want to talk a little bit about that?
The fastest pass is just done for you. So for those of you that have way more money than you have time, in fact, you've already solved your money problems, but you haven't solved your time problems, then I'll get on a call with you and walk you through a done for you program where all you have to do is stroke a check. And then we will actually start building that passive income for you and help you reach your passive income goal of getting to total freedom. Or, as Russ and Joey like to say, the 200 Club, 200% above your total freedom number.
Well, Mark, as you're doing this podcast in a Tesla, which gives you the ability to do two things at one time. One, get from point A to point B. Two, podcast or fill in the blank. That's the concept of done for you, right? The concept is that you can be doing one thing while you have something else doing another. And Joey and I have said this over and over every single month. It's one of our favorite items that we put on our passive income report. If you've not checked out our passive income reports, you can go onto our website, go down to the bottom, hit passive income report, and you'll see the numbers each and every month that we report on. And our business, our land flipping business, which we just tapped right into that. You know that Joey and I are not smart enough to do anything but to partner with highly successful and very smart people like yourself. And the done for you model has been an amazing contributor to our passive income. So if you're interested in this, go look at that. Go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/passive-income, and you can see how this model has been working for us. Mark, I love you. I'm so grateful that you're on the show with us today. Grateful that we get a chance to spend time with each other here soon, as Joey and I are traveling out to San Antonio to participate in the boot camp. Any last words you want to give to our listeners?
I want to ask Mark a very pointed question, not just his last thought. All of this sounds great. It's a cool business. It's got high returns. It turns into passive income. But talk for just a second as we round this out. What does it actually mean in terms of lifestyle and freedom for you and for the other people that you've been able to coach?
Well, for me, it's I don't even want to talk about me because I've been doing this for so long. I'm not even relatable anymore. But let's talk about Roberto Chavez. So Roberto, 3 years ago, 32 years old, is working very hard in El Paso, Texas, as a corporate attorney. And he just does not want to, trade hours for dollars. And so he starts to do his land investing business. In his first year, he builds his passive income to $8,000 a month. And he goes from 5 days a week down to 3 days a week. One of those days a week, he's spending with his dad on his ranch in El Paso, Texas. In his second year, he builds his passive income up to $14,000 a month. And now it's getting more interesting for him, working part-time on his land business and now part-time in his firm. And he can see on the horizon what's going to happen on the third year. The third year, he gets to $24,000 a month in passive income, and he quits his job and retires. So at 35 years old, him and his fiancée Maria are traveling the world. They're doing what they want, when they want, where they want. He's working part-time in his land business, and it has completely changed everything in his life. It's his relationships. He has the time to go deeper on his relationships. He can think about his legacy and how he wants to spend even more time with the most important people in his life, but to charity and his favorite causes, and spend even more time traveling. And so I really want that for everybody, because life is short. I want them to be able to have their money problem solved and their time problem solved, so they can move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs into self-actualization and really achieve their highest purpose in life and have the time and flexibility and freedom and money and resources to do it.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. Yeah, I just get really fired up when we're at your boot camps and we're hearing these stories from other people. Like we've shared a lot of them on our show, but man, if you haven't heard all those, it's what's on the other side. It's what does all this actually equal out to? It's that you have a purpose that is much bigger than just putting up with life. And what Mark's laid out for you is a very clear path on how you can get there. So I didn't want us to miss that before we round it out. Mark, you are an amazing, amazing man. And we're grateful to have you as a friend and as a partner in our mastermind. And man, thank you for being on the show today.
I love you guys, and you are the peanut butter to my jelly, and so appreciative. So thank you.
Oh man, this is some bromance happening here, as you can tell. So hope you're not playing this around your buddies on the gym. They may be looking at you strange. But if you haven't already taken action on a path to creating financial freedom, this might be the one for you. Go to thelandgeek.com/quick deals, and you can get and take action on what Mark has laid out. Get your first dollars coming in from this strategy and see if it can't escalate your path and your time frame to get there. As always, we appreciate you listening. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.